Well, welcome to the Nitty Gritty Podcast, episode 11. We're in the double digits. We have a pretty exciting guest today.
Today's going to be a lot of fun. We got Kory Stevens in the house of Taft. Is it Taft Clothing?
Just Taft.
Just Taft.
Yeah, the URL's a bit deceiving, but yeah, it's just Taft.
Okay. So with Taft, I'm really excited to jump into your story. So we met, I don't know if you even remember this, but Clay introduced us. We went golfing at Riverside, and it was probably...
It was
Jesse
like Clark.
Yeah, it was
Jesse
like
Clark
right
was
as
there,
you
yeah.
were, and we'll get into this, when you were transitioning into shoes.
Yeah.
Like you were still doing the socks.
Yes, yeah. If I was living at that house when I was with Clay, yeah, man, it would have been early.
Yeah,
would have had some samples, but definitely not like what it has become now.
Yeah, because Clay was telling us like he's starting to make shoes, and like Clay knows that 'cause I'm like a huge shoe sneakerhead guy, and so he was always telling me about them. But yeah, I'm really excited to do this today. So
yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me.
Shoes. So what brought that on? Where did that come from? Like just wanting to make, like, were you making them or?
No. So we started as a sock company.
Right.
And, but like no-show socks are super niche, super polarizing. Right. You're not going to build like a, $100 million business off of just
right.
no-show socks.
Or barbecue,
before,
just
like,
so you know.
Yeah.
like why did you even start with socks though? Like take us back.
All the way back.
Something I didn't realize was how involved your wife is in the business.
Yeah, so we both went to BYU. I studied linguistics. She studied English, and I wanted to do management consulting, which is kind of like in the business school at BYU. It's like it's either that or nothing.
Yeah,
like it's either success in management consulting or like you failed. And there's like 2 jobs for 1 million kids.
Yeah,
and so I didn't get an offer. And so then I wanted to get into sports. Like my main passion is sports, and so I was like looking at FIFA and US youth soccer out of Frisco, Texas, and it was just, my wife was pregnant, and it was like, dude, I can't like go make $30,000 in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
And so we decided that we were gonna start something.
Did either of you come from like an entrepreneur background?
No, it's like against every fiber of my being to be an entrepreneur. Like it's very uncomfortable for me. I wanted like a stable job with a 401k and insurance and 9 to 5 and weekends off. Like I never ever wanted this for myself. And so dude, I don't know. It came really out of necessity. It's like, well, I don't have a job. At the time I was like being a fly fishing guide and buying and selling board games on Amazon to try and like make a little bit of money.
You're buying
and
and selling like Gary Vee style, like going to like garage sales?
No. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just like arbitrage. It was like, okay, well, Walmart.com is selling this game for this amount. I can sell it for this on Amazon. It was dumb. I don't know if there's money in barbecue. There's definitely not money in buying and selling board games on Amazon. So it was just a weird start, but it was like I knew that, I grew up wearing no-show socks, but I like stole my mom's, and they were
right.
horrible, not meant for men. They were sheer and ugly and feminine, and they just didn't work. And so I knew that there was an opportunity there. This was before Stance had no-show socks or K-Bell or whatever. It was like a pretty unique thing that we did. And so I knew that if we brought that design approach to socks, we could probably make a splash and do something, at least get off the ground. And then a year and a half later, we realized that it was like, wow, we have 300,000 guys on Instagram that really like shoes, because we were going to Nordstrom Rack, buying up all these shoes to photograph with our socks, but we basically functioned and looked like a men's shoe company.
Well, yeah, so that's funny. Huh. So that part of it, you had your socks, but the way that you marketed them
was basically like a
shoes.
Shoe company. Yeah,
you went and bought all these shoes at Nordstrom Rack. You took pictures of the sock with the shoe, and then you took all the shoes back.
That's right. So it was like... That's exactly right. I mean, like, imagine if I like took your shoe off, took your sock off, put a no-show sock on, and then took a picture. Like, no one would ever want to follow an account that was like men's feet. I mean, there's some people, but they're kind of weird. So we were just going around buying, looking for lax return policies, buying unique shoes, photographing them with our socks, and then returning the shoes. And that's so we looked like a very shoe-centric Instagram account. But in reality, we were just a sock company that marketed that way. But then we found ourselves like, okay, well, what do we want to do? How can we grow this business? And it's like, well, let's freaking do shoes, because we already have this audience that clearly likes shoes.
So you started going on Instagram but you talked about like, I mean, from what I know about you, you're kind of a private person, like your nature. And so how did you think of, okay, we're going to start an Instagram account and we're going to take pictures and people are going to, I mean, that's how we're going to grow our business. I mean, where did that come from?
Yeah, you're right, man. Like I really am like a private person. I think that people expect me to be like outgoing and an extrovert, and like, dude, I'm really shy, really uncomfortable around people. I don't like going to events where I have to talk. I like speaking, but I don't like socializing. Like in a room full of people,
right?
Like I'm automatically skyrocketed back to like those high school days when you see people talking and you have to like tap on a shoulder and butt in. Like I don't know. I'm just pretty shy and I just want to be with my kids at home.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, dude. Like I didn't have a personal Instagram account at the time. We had a Taft Instagram account before I had a personal Instagram account. But it was like that was the free way to try it out. You know, it required zero money. It was like, dude, make an account, takes 5 minutes, freaking post pictures. Like it was the free way to try it. And so that's how we grew, and it ended up being our biggest strength. But in the beginning, it wasn't like a very strategic decision. It was just the fact that it was free.
So did you have any type of, like, did you do any type of social media training?
No, dude, I
courses?
studied linguistics. Taft started right out of school.
Yeah.
So I went from like phonetics to shoes. and no, so I didn't have any training. I would say that my wife and I are naturally pretty good at understanding people. I would say that I am a people person. Definitely not a social media guy or whatever, but like people are, you know, applicable to really anything. And so if we were just thinking about what guys want, the business has always been very practical and logical. We're not like fashion people. We're not shoe designers. We're not social media experts. We're just like have good common sense and kind of understand what people want.
So like how long did it take you to get to like your first, I don't know, 1,000, 10,000 followers? I mean,
oh dude, it was quick, man. Like, now it's very different, but like 4 or 5 years ago, Instagram was like, you could grow an account crazy fast. And so that's why like the other men's shoe accounts will never catch us because you can't grow an account like you used to be able to. And so thankfully we went all in on growing an Instagram account, and now we have, 500,000 followers, whereas all of our competition has maybe 100,000.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was just like we would take pictures. I would hold my baby and we'd walk around the neighborhood, shoot pictures, and go to Nordstrom Rack, buy cool pants, photograph them, return them. Like we were just, that's like all the business was in the early days. That's all we really did was just take cool pictures for Instagram. And that's how we started.
Has Nordstrom Rack reached out to you? Do they know about this yet?
No, but like I would always like, cause I'm really uncomfortable doing things that I know I shouldn't. Like if I like even like bow fishing,
right.
like if I'm not sure if I can bow fish in an area, I will like hide my bow and like not do anything. And so I would go into Nordstrom Racks and like, hey, here's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to buy 10 pairs of shoes. I'm going to return them all. Are you guys cool with that? Like, yep.
I mean, you never wore them. I don't see what the problem. I mean,
no,
well,
like,
I guess you slipped them on for a picture.
I did wear them, but I would put duct tape on the bottom.
Oh, see.
So it was like perfect. You never know. So I didn't feel bad about it. I felt okay about it, especially after I started like asking if people were cool with it.
I mean, how many people would ask? I mean, we've all done that. We've all bought like, back in Halo days, I remember we bought an Xbox for one weekend just to like fit enough guys to play Halo.
Yeah.
And then we took it back.
Oh, the summer sale days where you buy the TV and like return it 90 days later.
Yeah, that's basically what I was doing. Like Nordstrom Rack is like 90-day, no questions asked.
Right. It's like Costco.
So it's like 90 days, man. I can like shoot these for 3 months and then return them.
Right.
It was like a dream. So that's how we started.
Were you shooting your own pictures? Did you like hire someone to come do it?
Dude, no. I did not know how to photograph. Now I'm okay. But me and my wife did not know. We just shot on automatic. So everyone would make fun of us that we just didn't know how to shoot manual. But our automatic photos are the best photos on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I remember like waking up one day, like when it came time to go from like iPhone to like a legit camera, I woke up one day at like 4 a.m.
So you got started just taking them on your phone?
Oh yeah, dude. This was just phones. And then when it came time to get legit, I like combed KSL for a camera. and some guy wanted me to meet him in Salt Lake at like 4 a.m. or something, because he worked at like some power plant or something.
Wow.
And so I bought our first camera at like 4:30 in the morning in Salt Lake and was back before, freaking sun up. But yeah, that's how we started, man. It was like iPhone to some camera purchased on KSL, and now it's much more legit. But that's the best days of the business were right there, man.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say you're not entrepreneurial. Like, I hear it totally, like even the board game thing. I mean, you remember Susan talking about the side hustle.
Glow stick Susan.
Yeah. Like it seems like, so I would sell barbecue out of my driveway before I had the restaurant just to keep money in our pockets. And it's funny. I feel like a lot of the entrepreneurs that we've talked to started out like kind of out of necessity, just like Susan, just like Jay. I mean, like flipping board games.
Dude, it was weird, man. It was weird.
It may be weird, but it's still creative, and you were still doing something.
Yeah. I mean, it was very opportunistic.
I mean, you learned a little bit about e-commerce, right?
Arbitrage. Yeah, man. It was. Yeah, I still would not say I'm entrepreneurial.
Right.
It's still not natural or comfortable for me, but maybe it isn't for anyone. I don't know.
That's interesting. Maybe it isn't. I mean, what is it? Where does it come from? Because I don't know that. I'm not very good at assessing risk. So,
like, do you like the risk? Are you like, dude, I want to?
I don't really even think about it.
Put all my money into this place and just pray that they come.
That's the beauty of ADHD. We don't have that like executive
that
function.
Foresight.
Like we don't assess risk. And when I opened the restaurant, I never 80% failure rate. I never even really thought of it. But I also didn't really want to do anything else. So
I think a lot of it is just you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
So, and I'm not, dude. Like, I'm not comfortable being
Was being married a part of it? Like, had you been single and maybe not had any responsibility for another person, would you have gone there?
Yeah, I think I may have been more interested in it. But being married, dude, and like, we had a baby on the way.
Seeing
like,
that there it is.
Really wore on me. That really weighed me down. And now I have 3 children, and it still stresses me out just as much. People would probably assume that, Kory's like never has to worry about money again. He's fine.
Right.
It's like no matter what my circumstances are, it will always stress me out and weigh on me because the patriarchal weight of caring for other people is heavy, and I'm very conscious of it every day.
But in a way, it's a blessing too, because I mean, really, that's kind of, maybe that was the force behind you.
Yeah, it certainly drove me to like, succeed.
Right. I mean, the board games. I love that. I think that's my favorite part of this talk so far. Is that like
it's love learning these little things.
You're very humble about it, but this is kind of what's fun about talking to people is like.
There's someone out there trying to flip board games right now.
Well, not even that. It's to see the guests, like maybe you've never thought that might touch somebody or reach somebody, but a lot of people are just, we had a guy on Twitter yesterday say like, I just quit my job. I'm looking for a switch. This has been motivating me. And to hear stories like Jason Edwards hauling 2x4s on the bus. To build a shack,
freaking, like,
to hear
picking the stuff off the windows.
Well, and even before that, like the glow stick, like she was selling glow sticks at like Stadium of Fire.
Like, did you know that?
She wasn't even.
Dude,
she wasn't even
Susan's
licensed to do it.
I didn't know that.
She wasn't even like. I guess we're the first podcast or first people to get that out of her.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't private. She just never talked about it, but. Like she was hustling. And so to hear somebody like you, where you're at now, just a few years ago or however many years ago it was, say,
like 3,
hey, I couldn't find a job out of school that I wanted, so I was buying board games on sale and making a few bucks on that's an incredible part of your story.
Yeah. The other part, while I was buying and selling board games, I was also, like we talked about, I was basically a mule for a fly fishing guide.
Right.
So I would like wake up at crazy early, 4:30, and we'd go, and I would just carry the bags, and I would teach people how to like roll cast upriver, and then I'd come home and I'd ship board games.
Wow.
And so I'd make like $20 or $40 depending on how big the party was in the morning.
Right.
And then I'd come and buy and sell board games on Amazon.
What was your best? Like, what was
I was just
was there a
gonna
money
ask that.
board game? Like, is there one that you always made a few bucks on if you saw it come up for
Candyland or
sale?
Shoots and Ladders.
Yeah. Ticket to Ride
Ticket to Ride. What's that
and
one?
Cards Against Humanity.
Okay.
Oh, I love that game
Those
so
were
much.
pretty hot, and they were coming out with like all these expansions at the time.
Right.
It's like, what would you make when you flipped a game? I mean,
Dude.
like,
10, 20 bucks more?
No. Dude, we're talking a couple dollars. Like it's the
Really?
difference between like $17.99 at Walmart.com and $19.99 on Amazon.com. Like it was.
Wow.
We're talking not a lot of money.
So it was all quantity. You
yeah, it
had
was
to
like
push
a
big
volume
quantities.
play.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a volume play.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, but Ticket to Ride was a good seller.
What is Ticket to Ride?
I haven't
Ticket
heard
to-
of it.
I've never played it. I don't know if anyone. It's like there's like a
You played
train
it,
on the
Brent?
front, and it's some sort of, I don't know, like train. I don't know.
It's like Mall Madness? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I
My
don't know,
sister had
man.
that.
But like, it's really popular,
Wow.
and
gotta
people
look it
bought it, man. Yeah, look it up. It's called Ticket to
gonna
Ride.
bug me.
I think it's one of the most popular board games ever.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah.
You play that in your 78-degree house, Brent? In the summer nights?
78 degrees.
Yeah.
That's what he keeps his house at.
What? I'm a 68
I'm
kind
gonna
of guy.
thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up every
Yeah, I'm a
episode
68.
until the winter,
I'm
and then
a-
we're gonna make fun of
I'm
your heating
double
bill.
digits lower than you.
Oh my gosh.
So Kory, so you're getting in the socks. You're realizing you've kind of started an Instagram shoe account.
Yeah.
You don't have a background in making shoes
Zero.
or a design.
Zero.
Did
yeah.
you have connections to a factory?
No, but because everyone, like our Instagram account was a growing men's Instagram account.
So
men's
how
shoe.
big was it at that time? Like when you started thinking about the
I
switch.
would say we were probably approaching 200,000.
Okay.
And because we looked like a shoe account, these like factories were hitting us up saying, "Hey, can we make your shoes?" And it's like, one, we don't even make shoes, but two, like, interesting.
Yeah.
You know, like it, because whenever I get to speak places, they're always like, "How did you find a manufacturer?" As if that's like the hardest thing. It's like factories are actively looking for more clients.
Yeah.
You know, if you know where to look. And thankfully on Instagram, we were getting actively approached by lots of factories around the world if they could make our shoes. We didn't even make shoes at the time, but it allowed us to have this kind of database of, you know, a dozen or so shoe factories that wanted to make shoes.
So you kind of just saw an opportunity at that point. Then you're like, oh, maybe we should start making shoes because people keep asking us to make them.
My wife and I, we were like dead set on never making shoes. You know, socks is like one size fits most.
Most.
And it's
Most.
it's not going to fit you. I'm sure. What size shoe do you wear?
15.
Freak, man.
Which, you know, but I turned this off. I just want everyone to know. I looked on the website before, and of course, I know about Taft shoes. I think I remember Susan telling me about you the first time, you know, a couple years ago. But I'm not the dressiest person because I'm just covered in grease most days. But I looked today, and you had 15. That was like the first thing I looked at. I was like, if he doesn't have 15s, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, I think no, we do. We go up to. I mean, because we make a lot of NBA player shoes.
Right.
So we have like, you know, Gobert's like a size 21. Gasol's like a 17, 18. You know, like so we can make really, really big shoes, but we
Right.
regularly carry up to 15.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, so many guys out there have been limited to essentially Nikes their whole lives because there's no great option. And you go to Nordstrom Rack, you look at the 15, there's like 3 shoes and they're all horrible.
Yep.
You know, like I really sympathized with that, and so we wanted to make sure we catered to.
I appreciate
to those
that.
people,
Yeah,
too.
I looked and I was like, hey, there you go. Because
Yeah.
it's hard. It's like back before the internet days. It was like, what do you have in the back that's a 15?
Yeah, that's
and they
right,
come
like-
out like
Yeah,
blow
dust
the
them
dust off the box, and it's like Reebok pumps, which when I was asking
Which are
weren't
awesome.
vintage yet. I wish I would have bought them all, but yeah. So it's a little easier with online now, but it's still. It seems like the shoes you want the most, they stop at 4. You know, is
Yeah.
14 kind of the like?
Yeah, 14.
end of the common sizes
13,
now?
Like 7 to 13 is like
That's always been the-
range.
right.
14 is like, oh, you're kind of cool.
Right.
15 is like, oh, dang. Like, you're
15, you're an ogre.
Yeah, 15 is like, oh,
We don't
dang,
want you
dude,
wearing our
cater
shoes.
you cater to me, dude.
You'll
Like,
break
thank
our
you.
shoes too fast, make us look bad.
Yeah, so we make some big shoes for people, but 15 we regularly carry.
Is 21, size 21,
That's
the biggest so
one
far?
we've ever made, yeah.
Shaq's what, a 22, 23?
Something
Oh,
like
dude,
that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a
around
Lakers
there.
guy, but I don't know.
How about go? I mean, what's that like delivering those shoes to go? I mean, just seeing a shoe
Well,
that big.
here's the thing. I've made them. He doesn't have them, though.
Oh, okay.
I've struggled to get them to him.
Really?
Yeah. So we have we have a couple investors that are NBA players, Dwayne Wade, Andre Iguodala, but we have lots of friends.
Right.
But I've struggled to kind of get in with the Jazz.
Jazz are kind of weird.
They're up the street, man, and like I don't know what my problem is. Donovan Mitchell follows Taft on Instagram.
I saw
try and
that.
DM him all the time. He never DMs me back.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm still working. Like
We'll get you in there.
I'm trying to get an in because it's like, guys, I can make you dope shoes. One of the coaches, I don't know his name. It's not Quinn, but one of the assistant coaches. I was at a game.
Johnny Bryant.
He freaking had our shoes on. Like so,
Whoa.
it was like I was sitting courtside. I don't remember how, but I went in the back after the game. This guy walks by, and I was like, "Dude, are those Taft?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I love them." I was like, "Oh, cool, man, I like them too." And
You
I was
didn't
like,
tell him you were the
No,
the guy.
I was kinda
You're
like-
such a nice guy. I love it.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's wearing Taft." And so then I went back and I looked up the coaching staff, tried to find his name, figure this guy out, look up his order. Couldn't find his order, so someone bought him for him or something.
Right.
But I was like, okay, this guy is wearing Taft. Like, we need to get the whole freaking bench in Taft, the whole coaching staff in Taft.
Right.
So I'm trying to work it. But so I have a pair of size 21s for Rudy Gobert in my office.
Okay. I want to make you a deal. If I get you in, I get to come with you.
Okay, deal.
What is it with the Jazz? Like, so I fed quite a few
I
proteins.
imagine, yeah.
And never like I feed the Saints once a month. Like they fly me out to feed them. I feed the Pelicans now.
Goodness.
I've never talked to a single person with the Jazz. Like,
Dude, I don't know, man.
It's
Like,
really weird. I fed every team in the state. I mean, every college team, every semi-pro team, but I have never even heard a squeak from them.
I think Quinn. I was actually just with a guy that works for the Jazz this morning, and he was saying that Quinn is really private and
Right.
protects his players. No one flies on the jet with him. No one is able to watch the practices anymore. Employees,
Really?
yeah, it's super private, which I think is kind of cool. But it's just kind of interesting. I always see people like, man, thanks to Donovan for becoming such a part of the community. It's like, man, let's get him some freaking Bam Bams and some Taft shoes. You know, like you want to be a real part of the community,
Right.
Like, let's get you some Taft shoes and eat some barbecue.
Let's go sit outside the
Hey,
parking
I'll
lot.
vouch for them. They're the coolest dudes. We hung out with them during the summer league.
No, dude,
And
I
they are
love,
the coolest dudes.
I'm a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
I
sorry.
grew up in the shadow of the Staples
You
Center.
stop it.
What are you, a Clippers fan?
No, Jazz.
Oh well, it's because you grew up with us beating you guys in the playoffs. all the time.
Exactly.
But
Yep.
but I grew up really close to the Staples Center, and I love the Lakers. I've now been in Utah for 12 years, and I have really come to love the Jazz. And I would love I love those guys. Like those guys. It's interesting being now a father and a grown man rather than like a kid in LA watching
Right.
the Lakers. Like now it's like these guys are superheroes, man. Like they have a huge opportunity to be great.
Right.
And I think that they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Like
for
that
sure.
team, and this year, dude, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great squad.
So I didn't know you were from where in California? Like El Segundo?
Burbank.
Burbank.
Yeah.
Be there in a week.
Oh, really? Are you from California?
I grew up in Huntington Beach.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up a Lakers fan. I wasn't there as long as you. I was only there till high school, but
Well, I mean, me too. I'm
Right.
So I born in Burbank.
How old are
graduated-
you?
I'm 30.
Holy crap. You're young.
How old are you?
40. Gosh, this sucks.
How old are you?
35, 34.
That's sad that you don't know that. Do you want me to text Jenna? Yeah. Ask her.
33?
Oh, wow. That's
Dude, when,
pretty cool.
When did you graduate high school? 03, 04?
02.
02.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're probably like 34, 35.
Have you guys heard of the 90s?
I have.
I was
Okay,
born in
that's when I
89, dude.
graduated.
I've watched
Really?
I was born in the 80s.
I watched the documentaries about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the classic rock station is now starting to like creep into my high school music. I'm like, damn it. I'm getting old. Oh, that's awesome. So, I grew up a big Lakers king. I'm a big hockey guy. We got
Kings.
Gretzky behind me,
Yeah.
right? But, yeah, my very first hockey goal, I played hockey, started when I was 8, was in the Forum.
Oh, yeah.
My very first
Great
organized
Western
hockey
Forum.
goal was the Great Western Forum.
That's
And now
awesome.
it's got some new life because of the Ram Stadium.
Yeah,
so,
it was sad for a decade.
yeah,
or so.
that was bad. But
Yeah.
no, that's cool. So are you starting to switch now to the Jazz, or are you
Well,
still
Yeah, I mean,
cheer for the Jazz if they're not playing the Lakers type thing?
I'm really disappointed in like the management of the
Oh,
Lakers.
it's ridiculous.
Like the back office is really embarrassing.
It is almost time to switch to the Clippers.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
yeah.
come to the Jazz. Everyone, I
No,
welcome you.
I
Come.
really am liking the Jazz a lot.
I am like I have many more ties to the Jazz than I ever had to the Lakers. Like the Lakers
Right.
were like, up on this hill and untouchable. Now it's like the Jazz. It's like, oh, Donovan Mitchell follows Taft on Instagram, and Ricky Rubio, who, you know, R.I.P. on the Jazz, but Ricky Rubio is really good friends with Marc Gasol, who's a good friend of mine, and you know, and now Mike Conley, who's a good friend of Marc Gasol. I just have all these ties, and you know, Steve Starks. You probably know Steve Starks.
Right.
I don't know him, but I know that he has a pair of Taft shoes,
Wow.
and it's like, dude, all these cool ties. So it's just much more humanized organization than the Lakers, and that's why I find myself like, dude, playoff time at Vivint, dude, it's like the best time of the year.
Right.
It's
It's
incredible.
crazy.
And I never had that growing up.
Yeah.
It was like I'd never even been to a Jazz game, I'd never been to a Lakers game in my whole life until I moved here. And now I go to more Lakers games because they're here.
Because they're
Right.
But growing up, we just didn't have the money to go to Lakers games.
Yeah,
and so
so
I watched them on
expensive.
TV. But the Jazz is like a human, real organization that I feel like is accessible
Yeah.
and real to me.
But it isn't.
Well, but they don't answer my DMs. Yeah.
We'll try to change that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, it does. There's something about Utah, like we all feel like we're, you know, it does feel like a small town in a sense.
Dude, it's a
the whole
smaller
state.
market,
It is.
and their role in this community is different than someone like the Lakers.
absolutely.
For sure.
And so that's why I feel like, oh, I should be able to talk to him. I should be able to meet him, because it's like we're a smaller market, and I want to be friends with them. They're just,
Well, you know,
I just love those guys, man. And
It could
they
be
just are
you're, you know,
amazing.
you're obviously a pretty humble guy, and like you say, you're kind of introverted. I mean, I hate to say this, but if I saw those Taft shoes, I'd be like, yeah, it's actually my company. I would have totally dropped that.
Dude, I
So
don't do that.
I respect that you didn't, for sure, but at the same time,
Yeah, I
gotta
that's
take
kind of like a
advantage of that.
decision I made, because check this out. Let's role play.
okay,
You're like we're in you're
I'm in my
Salt
15s.
Lake. You're in your size 15s,
Right.
and some guy comes up to you. Oh my gosh, I really like. Are those Taft? I like your shoes. And then what do you say? Oh,
well,
cool.
yeah, I love them.
Cool, man. Thanks. Yeah, I love them. And then I say this. What do you do? Oh, dude, cool. I created them. I'm the designer.
So that's
Either
a little
you
different.
don't know who I am.
Here's what I would have said. I would have gone the grateful route, and which is how I
Well,
actually.
that would be cool.
And for me, it's kind of a more natural thing. Like, if I ever hear somebody talking about my food or whatever, like, you know, if I go up to them and just say, "Hey, that's actually my restaurant," and it means a lot to me that you said that.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. I would have walked up to him and just said, "Hey, you know, that's my company, and it really means a lot to see you wearing them. I hope you love them."
I kind of got burned a few months ago because
Oh,
I
really?
used to like it, dude. There is nothing more incredible than when I see someone wearing our shoes.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, dude, it blows my mind. It just fills me with so much gratitude.
Even to this day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I take pictures. Like I do. It's the most amazing feeling in the whole world to make something and then to see someone spend their hard-earned money and enjoy it. Like, it's the same for food, shoes, whatever.
Right.
It's amazing. And I used to, you know, sometimes I would say that, but then recently, 2 times in a row, it was like it led to a really awkward, almost negative interaction.
Huh.
And so I stopped doing it. I
Like,
stopped
what happened?
saying, this.
I mean, you have no names or anything.
No,
but
no, no.
what
I don't. I
happened?
don't know his name.
I want
I don't
names.
know his name.
I'm just kidding.
But you know, I was in a restaurant and I just I saw that this guy's wearing Taft, and I was by myself.
Right.
I was like up at a deli in Salt Lake, and I was just by myself, and this guy was with another gentleman, and I kind of tapped his shoulder. Hey, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say, like, I really love your shoes. And he just like kind of looked at me as if I was interrupting. I wasn't
Right.
interrupting, but it was like as if I just inconvenienced him greatly. And he just kind of looked at me and like, okay. And I was like, oh, I'm the owner of that company and I designed that shoe, and it just, you know, stokes me out to see you in them. And he was just like, okay. And I walked away, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like, dang, it bummed me out so much that I kind of stopped. And that same guy hit me up on LinkedIn like a couple of days later and was like, hey, I'm so sorry that I was so awkward and uncomfortable.
That's cool.
And I was like, wow. Like, and then he was like, please come to Salt Lake. I'll take you to lunch. Like, I looked you up and you actually are the guy. And
Yeah, I
was
didn't
like,
believe it.
I was like, but it was so awkward that
Right.
he felt he needed to apologize.
Right.
And so I
That's
don't know.
pretty cool, actually.
It was super cool of him,
Right.
but it just kind of made me like, man,
Hard to put
it's
yourself out there
kinda-
like
yeah,
that.
I kind of put myself out there, and it's like, it is kind of awkward if I'm like, oh, I made those. It's kind of like when you're like,
Right.
oh, you're from Huntington Beach? do you know Danny Ritter? And you're like, no.
Totally.
But even if you do know him, you say yes, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I do too. Or if
Cool.
you say no, it's like, oh, okay, Huntington Beach is really big.
That happens.
It's like Huntington Beach is really big. You
You're
probably
right.
don't know. You know, it's kind of like it's a lose-lose no matter what the answer is. And so I've just kind of like backed off, and I just like sneak pictures of them and post them on Instagram.
Just like creeper style.
Yeah,
So
like-
that's not a bad way to do it. You just tag them on Instagram
Yeah.
if it's somebody like Rudy Gobert, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just like, hey, I killed a whole cow for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at all this leather.
Rudy,
They're waiting
Size
in
21s.
storage.
Yeah.
So, are you the designer of the shoes then?
Yeah.
So you've done all of them.
All of them. Yeah. We
Really? Wow.
not a single person has ever helped.
I didn't know that.
So where did that? I mean, that you got to call that a passion. You've got to be passionate about designing.
Yeah, but my favorite part would probably be the shoe design. The product is my favorite
Wow.
part.
So where did that come from? Like that? I mean, obviously you moved into shoes, but I mean, moving into selling shoes and like designing them,
Very different.
very, very different.
I love shoes. And I couldn't design a shoe to save my life.
See, I'm just kind of like a jack of all trades. Like, I think that it was like out of necessity. I'm not like Virgil or Kanye West, where I'm like waking up in the middle of the night, like with some some inspired.
Do you believe that?
Um,
Do you believe that they really wake up in the middle of the night?
Sometimes I do,
with an
because if you ever
inspired-
listen to them talk, they're like on another level.
yeah,
It's like
just super
their brain
artistic.
is like so out there that it's like I can't even understand what you're saying.
Well, Joey, sometimes though, my best thinking happens if I wake up at like 2 a.m.
Really?
I guess
Oh,
not that I'm
man,
like I'm
that's
inspired.
me.
It's I wake up and once my brain starts turning, it doesn't stop. So it's very common for me to wake up at 2 and work from 2 to 4, 2 to
Oh,
5,
dude, never
and then
for
try
me.
to go back to sleep for a couple of hours.
If I wake up at 2, I watch Stranger Things.
Dude, I stay up till 2 watching. Stranger
That's
Things,
me
man.
too.
I
It's
just,
horrible.
I just designed, like, for me, it was just out of necessity and practicality and logic. Like, I'm not like, oh, I saw this amazing tree and it inspired this design. It's like, no. Like, it's like I'm not reinventing the shoe. I'm just like searching for cool, unique textiles and leathers and things and then putting them together. Like, I don't know. I'm a very practical. Like, I would never say that I'm a shoe designer. Have I designed like hundreds of shoes? Yes. But like, I'm not like, I couldn't teach shoe design, or I couldn't like, if Nike wanted to do a collab with Taft, I would be shaking, trembling at that meeting where they're like, okay, well, what do you got? It's like, oh, dude, I don't know. Like, I can't draw a shoe. I'm not like this artistic dude.
Right.
I just design them because there's like 5 of us at Taft and someone has to design the shoes, and I elect to do it.
So what's your process? Like, do you have a process when you sit down? Like, let's say, okay, it's Kory's turn to design a shoe. What's next? I mean, does it just work on your timeline? Is there a timeline, or
No,
is it just
it's
kind of as
like
it comes to you?
I'm always
Just looking.
thinking of things, and I like screenshot them on my phone, or I text myself ideas, or I keep like a running note, and then 3 or 4 times a year I have to design like a new collection, and I'll take all of those things that I have and all those screenshots on my phone and
Start piecing them together.
yeah, come up with stuff and come up with 15 to 20 designs and get samples, and a few of them will work and most of them won't.
It's very interesting. I mean, to me, this just screams artistic shoe designer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're just such a
yeah.
humble dude, and I really respect it. But again, I'm going to bring it up.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter
Oh
syndrome.
yeah, who talked about it? Susan?
Susan,
Yeah.
the first time, and
No,
I'd never
I-
even heard of it.
Dude, it's a real thing.
And I think we
100%
all
it
have
is.
it.
It is an absolutely real thing. Like,
If anything, this podcast is about people overcoming that.
I think we should rename our podcast "The Imposter" or something, because I bring up his heater or his air conditioner every
well, yeah,
time.
that's like
That needs
just
to be
kind of
talked
weird.
about.
Yeah. That's
And
like
then-
it's like just go outside if you want it 78 degrees. Just open all your windows.
Just go in the
It's freaking hot,
shade.
dude.
Yeah,
It's
splash
sweaty.
some water on yourself. And
I
go in
could
the
not
shade.
sleep at 78 degrees. That's like
And
my
then-
mission or something.
So I bring that up, and then the imposter syndrome thing, because it's like no matter how successful the entrepreneur that sits in front of us or the NFL player, it's there.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because it's like, do you know how many people? I get this with barbecue. Barbecue is a very simple cuisine, right? But
Not to people who don't know how to make it.
Yeah,
But
not
that-
to me,
and-
dude.
and
Don't,
that's the
don't
thing,
put me on
like-
a grill.
it's if you look at what a chef does compared to what I do, it's way more intense. They have to know way more about
Yeah.
pairing things and flavors and So, but it is true when I teach, because I teach classes everywhere, and I'll watch what people struggle with making barbecue. And I'm just like, dude, you just need to relax. Just let the meat cook.
Yeah.
But then you start realizing, like, it computes for me. Like, barbecue just makes sense to me where it doesn't really make sense to a lot of other people. And it, to me at least, it sounds very similar to what you do. I think you look at it like it's a simple, I don't do a very artistic process, or this is how it works for me. But like Andrew said, there's no way in hell I could design a shoe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what's fashionable. I wouldn't know what's in. Like, you seem like like you bow fish, you fly fish, you're like this outdoorsy guy, but then you're also on the cutting edge of like men's fashion. Like, that's just, it's cool.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, I think like for me, design is the same as learning social media or learning accounting or learning finance or learning HR. Like, it was just,
Those all sound really hard.
it's just like
it's just something. It's the
just
next
something
challenge.
I had to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't like I was trained for it. It wasn't like I was inspired to do it. It was like, okay, I need to figure out payroll. I need to build an HR program. I need to figure out our core values. I need to design some shoes. I need to do, it was like just one of a million things that we had to do when starting a business, and just never let it stop us or get in the way. It was just like one other thing we had to get done.
So, and there's one thing that we haven't talked about. You've been really open about it recently, that all along the way, because the entrepreneur journey is hard enough, but then you've had your own personal battles as well.
That's right, yeah.
That just kind of compound on that. And that's something that we like to kind of talk about, just because I do think that people tend to put successful people up on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at their success and they assume everything just worked for them.
They only see the roses.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, talk a little bit about kind of what that has brought, like what like your personal struggle has been along the way with this.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of caught me at an interesting time, because like the last 3 or 4 days have probably literally been like the worst of my whole life. From that perspective, and so it's extra potent right now, because it's like, if you wouldn't have asked this question, you'd have no idea. I roll in here, jeans and a t-shirt, seem like a normal guy, you have no idea. But I think that this year it's just interesting, because in the last year, it's like Taft was number 56 on the Inc. 5000 list. I was Forbes 30 under 30. Entrepreneur of the Year for Ernst & Young just a month or so ago.
You just made a cover of another all the local magazines.
Yeah,
right?
like the cover of a magazine. It's like all of these things packed into a really dense 6 months. And so outwardly, publicly, just on Sunday, I was with someone that you guys probably know, and he was like, "Dude, you've had the most incredible year." And it's like, oh, dude, I didn't say that. I said thank you. But what I'm thinking is like, dude, you couldn't be any further from the truth. It's like that stuff means nothing if I can't just be okay with living and enjoy waking up each morning and be okay going to sleep and have the strength to get out of bed and have the strength to play with my children. Like, it's just really interesting, because obviously publicly Taft is really awesome, but privately my wife and I are in a battle for my life, essentially. And most people don't see that. Most people don't care about that. But that's my reality, and that's what's much more important to me right now. Even today, after this, I have a big meeting, a really important meeting, surrounded around my mental health, essentially, and my role at the company and things. And so it's an active battle. I think that a lot of times people will talk about this stuff once they've overcome it, or once they've kind of been removed from it. And I think that my openness has made people assume that, like, oh, it's something in the past. But it is an active thing that I have not overcome, and I am trying to not become a statistic, trying to not become another story. I'm trying to live through it. So it's I mean, even the mood in this room has changed because it's just like heavy stuff, you know. It's like it's serious, heavy. It's not like the kind of passive mental health struggle that like, oh, I have a few bad days a month. It's like, no, I am every day fighting to stay alive, and it gets harder and harder, you know.
When did you first like really recognize it? Because I think a lot of times we kind of go through it, and there's obviously different stages of you know, the process. So like, when did you really recognize that something was wrong more than you just not being happy?
I think so I've really struggled with like diagnosed depression since I was 15.
Okay.
And when I was 15, I remember, you know, I would go to school and I'd be like the cool, smart, successful kid. And then I'd go home and I'd slam the door and I wouldn't talk to my family. And so I remember my siblings and my mom and my dad talking about like getting really angry that Kory can be this nice guy at school and then he comes home and he's just horrible. And I remember like listening to really dark music, and I would draw like these really kind of like weird drawing. I'm not artistic like that.
Now he's just waiting. Like, stop calling me artistic.
So, but like,
stop calling me creative.
I would like scribble with crayons and stuff, and it was like kind of weird, you know.
Kind of venting.
Yeah, like it was just this odd thing. And so looking back, and I would in the summers, I would sleep on the couch, and I would go to sleep like at 3 or 4 a.m. and I would sleep till like 2 p.m. And just my sleep schedule was off, everything was off. And so when I was a kid, and then when I was later in high school, I moved out of my home because I was not dealing with it well, and my family wasn't dealing with it well either. And so it eventually erupted into me moving out, and I moved in with a friend. But that's kind of like the seeds of it. And then I graduated high school. I did very well in school, despite all this that was going on personally. And then I went to BYU. I served a mission. But on my mission, I was kind of on and off of medications through this time. And then on my mission, it was really bad. And so I would have these calls with like this doctor in Hong Kong that would prescribe me medicine. It was essentially acting as a therapist once a week. And so I was somehow served a mission in Asia. And but now my mental health is way worse than it ever has been, unfortunately. So
do you feel like the stress of the business and the success has kind of compounded
for sure
the effects of it?
Yeah, like having children, being married, having a bit, like the pressure has certainly mounted, and I don't know, man, like I feel like my brain is just getting worse and worse. It's frustrating because it's like, I have more and more resources at my disposal and more people that care about me, but like this out of control organ in my body is just getting worse and worse. And I can kind of step back and I can see it and I can feel it getting worse. And it's like, dang, my thoughts are more and more. It's like with ADHD. Right. It's like you can't control it. You can be aware of it. You can take medicine that helps, but like sometimes it's just way worse. Yeah. And that's how it is right now for me. It's like getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm like present and aware enough to be able to see it and realize it, but not have any way to fix it.
Which I think is so important, to be able to recognize it, because I think a lot of people won't, or they almost feel like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like they're going back to the imposter syndrome a little bit. It's like, if I'm battling with it, I'm not good. I'm like, I should be able to beat this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you see a lot. You see a lot if you look at successful people and celebrities. I forget who I was listening to the other day. It was in a podcast. And somebody was talking about this exact thing. I mean, very famous person. I'm really bothered that I can't remember who it was. But what they were saying is that it's almost for them, the depression was multiplying because all of these highs. Maybe it was an athlete, but like, you know, like you talk about some of your accolades recently. And sometimes like you have these really, really like amazing things happen. And then the next day you wake up and it's just normal again.
Oh, dude, it's like when people win a Super Bowl.
Right.
The day after you win a Super Bowl, it's like, oh crap. Like a lot of athletes talk about it. I won the World Series. I won the Super Bowl, whatever. And then like this thing that they've worked towards their whole lives, they accomplish it. And then they wake up the next day and realize that life is the same as it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
And it leaves you feeling like,
what else is there to
if I
climb
can't be
forward
happy now, if this is how I feel now,
right,
then, you know, it's yeah, that's
kind of a vicious cycle. I mean, so yeah, amplifies. That's the word I was looking for. Just, I mean, I've seen it with this. Like I've been able to do some pretty cool things. The only thing I went through about 6 months, about 3 years ago, and it was the weirdest thing. I've never dealt with depression. All I know is for like 3 months, I just wanted to sleep, which I'm like hyper. That never happens. And finally, our therapist, my marriage, what do you call him?
Counselor?
Marriage
therapist?
counselor.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Now therapist for me, but was just like, you know, mild form of depression. He said, have you ever dealt with depression? I'm like, no. I mean, I have the ADHD thing, which I'm very open about because I want people to be able to talk about it. And anyways, it took about 3 more months and then it just kind of went away for me. But it was so weird because it was a chemical thing.
yeah.
And so now I have this whole new, like, hearing your story, like, I'm sorry the mood changed, but it's just like, you know, it's easier for me to really feel for somebody that goes through that and just know that there's nothing, like, I couldn't control that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really strange thing.
Mental health is so tricky because it's like, you know, if someone gets cancer, no one would ever say like, toughen up, you know, get over it.
For sure.
It's like, yeah, I'm trying to get over it with help. And the brain is an organ too.
Absolutely.
But there's this kind of stigma of like, oh, it's your brain, it's your thoughts. Oh, you should be able to get, you know, be more manly.
Yeah.
Get over it, control it, just get yourself in control. And it's like, unfortunately, with other, you know, diabetes, or it's like we don't take the same approach of like, oh, well, just toughen up,
right,
control it, get over it. It's like, yeah, the brain is an organ just like those other things. And unfortunately, a lot of people take the approach of like, oh, it's in your control, get over it, get up out of bed, be tougher,
right,
stop thinking about it, be happy, it's sunny outside. It's like there's just a different mentality towards mental health, and so I appreciate your understanding.
Well, and I was just going to say I really appreciate you talking about it because I think we're making progress in that department. Too. You know, like even the church, right? You know, Elder Holland had an awesome talk about that a couple years ago.
Like
it was mind blowing,
like crazy, yeah.
And
I listen to it freaking like once a week.
It's amazing,
Yeah,
and then I think the veterans are helping too. You know, the PTSD, the post traumatic stress syndrome. Like, there's a lot of things where people are starting to realize, like, hey, like you said, this is a real thing. Like ADHD still has. I hate to compare it because I'd much rather deal with this than depression, but in school, everyone says the same thing to you your whole life. Like, you just need to apply yourself. You have so much potential. But school was just not made for me. And so you go your whole life just feeling like an idiot. I mean, like even to this day, like I'll look at something and Susan tells me all the time. She said, so I did a podcast. She started a podcast. It comes out in September. And she wanted me to be her first guest, probably just because I'm easy for her. Like, I'll have this dumb guy on. But I said that. I did one of my little self-deprecating jokes or whatever. And she goes, that's one thing we need to talk about. And I'm like, what? She goes, she goes, Cameron always says he's dumb. But he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Like, I was like holding it back. Like, it was a really nice compliment. I texted her afterwards, but it's like, he can read a room. He's very emotionally aware, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, thinking about it after, I realized that's the ADHD talking.
Yeah. Because
you go your whole life in this structured school homework. You know, I had a 1.9 when I graduated high school. Like, I tell the story all the time. I talked a teacher into giving me a D so I could graduate. But now I own a business. So but still, I'm not there. Like, I still do look at this kind of like lucky. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's really interesting, hearing your story and hearing the way that you talk about yourself. And then, at least from my perspective, I'm like, this dude's a genius. You know, and you don't have to respond to that. I know that doesn't make you feel comfortable, but I think that might be, there's a common denominator with very successful, very, you know, you look at some of the greatest comics. I think comics are so brilliant.
Oh man, they're super troubled,
but they're very troubled.
I mean, look at, you know, Van Gogh or Beethoven or these, you know, sometimes a couple of our investors call me like a creative genius.
Right.
And it always drives me nuts because I don't feel that way. But if you think about a lot of the creative geniuses, they're often troubled.
Right.
You know, and there's the pros and cons of having a really hyperactive brain that can do a lot.
It's almost like it opens up. There's something open in your brain that's not open in other people, but there's good and bad there.
Yeah.
But I think you're choosing to do something very special, because I think you're inspiring people not only on the entrepreneurial side, but I don't know if I've ever heard anybody talk about it in the moment. Because like what you said is true. I've talked about it post, you know, years later, but for you to admit,
it's hard to recognize.
Yeah, for you to admit that you're like right in the middle of it right now. I mean, I hope a lot of people get to listen to this, because
dude, I'm in the middle of I'm in the worst time of my life right this second as we're recording this. And so it's, yeah, I think it's unique because, you know, when you talk about things from some sort of like authoritative, you know, a knowledgeable person on it, it's typically retroactively looking back. And, you know, there was this cool quote, and I think you may have referenced it earlier in this podcast, but you said something about like only seeing the roses. And it's like, you know, when you're walking through the garden, you feel the thorns,
right.
And then when you look back, all you see are the roses. And it's like, I'm not looking back on this. I am currently in the
right.
thorns, and just trying to raise awareness. And also there's an accountability factor for me as well, because the more people I talk about, you know, I don't know if you know J.D. Stice. J.D. Stice was the former CEO of Jane, and he took his life a few months ago, and he didn't really tell anyone. He was very private. And so for me, I'm taking a very public approach to this, because I feel like the more people that are aware, the more I can't do that. The more people,
it's like your accountability almost.
That's right. So I'm just trying to be, you know, in addition to helping others, I'm also trying to just make sure I keep myself accountable and have a lot of people that care about that and are aware of that, so that it can help me too.
First, thank you for like being willing to talk about this. I know you're open, but like I know that there will be people that hear this, and even if it just causes them to pause or says, hey, you know, maybe I'm going through something, or I was to look for help. But going back to the business side of it, as you're going through this, because like right now, literally waking up and standing up is a huge victory for you right now.
It is, yeah. Sometimes I can't.
And so how do you, as the business owner, as the creative guy of this business, how do you look ahead? Like what is next for Taft? Like, are you able to, once you're going, are you able to maybe like shift thinking a little bit so you can kind of start looking at the future a little bit for Taft?
I think what everyone on our team would say is I'm really good at faking it. You know, you would never ever know if it's a good day or a bad day. I would say in the lifetime of our business, my mental health has never affected me as much as it is right now. Like right now, this is negatively affecting the business. Our employees, like if any of them ever listen to this, I know that the employees will be like, yeah, I know, because he's been a kind of a crappy boss and he's been kind of an absent CEO. Like I know that right now the business is being negatively affected because of this. I've done a good job staying ahead. Like, you know how I always compare it as like Temple Run. Do you remember that app?
Yeah.
Like that guy's running, and if you stop for 1 second, that like horrible like thing gets you.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a Demogorgon looking thing. And that's what it's been. It's been like me just a millisecond ahead of that thing. And it's kind of consumed me a bit, and it's impeded my ability to keep running. And so right now, in the past, I would say that I've been able to kind of beat it and be ahead of it. The last 6 months, I would say that it has gotten me and certainly slowed down the business. In March, I admitted myself to a hospital, mental hospital, the Utah Neuropsychiatric Institute. And ever since then, I know that if you asked anyone on our team, they would certainly be like, oh yeah, I can tell, because the business has certainly not been as good as
do they know? I mean, I guess they kind of have to know if they follow the Instagram account, right?
Yeah, they know, but
they may not be able to relate or understand.
It's tricky. Everyone knows.
Sure.
But I think that no one really knows.
Right.
It's like, oh, sure, but he looks normal, and he comes in each day, and he's wearing his gray T-shirt and jeans just like he always does, and seems fine. Like, I think they're all aware, but they don't get it.
Right.
And unless you've experienced it yourselves, you don't know how hard it is to walk in a door, or to take a phone call, or to answer an email, or to get gas in your car, or make your bed. Like, there's different varying levels of getting it, and I think that
I don't think anyone can get it unless they've done it. Unless you've experienced it,
yeah.
I really don't think you really get it.
Yeah, I couldn't put myself in an ADHD brain. Like Cam's,
right. Yeah, it's just like puppies, candy canes, Ferris wheels. It's a mess. So one thing that's sticking out to me is your awareness. Is there anything that helped you become? I find with people that suffer from depression, they're not really thinking of others. Like hearing you talk about your staff and being aware of those around you, and I mean caring about it. Is there something that helped you kind of figure that out? Because it almost seems like maybe this is what helps is obviously talking about problems is a good thing, right? But helping is an even better thing. Helping others. Another thought that pops into my head is, the last person I flipped off on the road, right? you don't, like you said, you don't know, right? Yeah. You don't know, like, we were having fun making fun of the Jazz and not winning a championship, bow fishing.
Just wait a year.
And that, okay. But then to hear you say that, like, the first thought that popped into my head is one, like, you've got to be sweeter to people, because you just never know who you're talking to, what kind of day they're having. But then to hear you talk about your staff and be worried about them when you yourself have such a heavy weight on your shoulders, that says a lot about you in a very positive way. What was there anything that got you there, whether it be therapy or like who made you aware of, one, this is where you're at and you got to talk about it and share it, but two, caring about how it's affecting everybody else and being able to see that?
I would say one of my strengths is definitely like putting myself, kind of goes back to like that common sense and human skills that we talked about earlier, like what makes me a good business person is the same here. It's like, recently we've gone through the interview process with someone, and he's, he has children and he lives in another state and he's leaving behind a business and stability. Like, no one understands and puts himself in those shoes more than I do. Like, I think that I'm just naturally really blessed with an ability to put myself in someone else's shoes, and
empathy.
It really stems from my mission. I would say, like, I served my mission in Cambodia, and that was 2 years of me just being pounded into humility. Before that, I wasn't like a cocky person. Maybe people in high school would disagree, but I've just been, my mental health struggles have just pounded me into the depths of humility, as it's, talks about in the scriptures. And is scripture references okay in this?
Totally okay.
I don't know.
100%. You don't have to be Mormon to have scriptures, right?
We busted out the quad last episode.
Yeah, okay, great.
My forest green quad is right down there on top of the Gretzky book.
Yeah,
okay?
I think the depths of humility is exactly what I've experienced. And so, I know that I've had employees leave because of they may not know it, but it's because of my personal struggles with mental health.
Right.
Like that's just a hard thing, and it affects the business and it affects other people. And so when I think about, right now we have a C-level guy on our team that has 6 children, and he has a daughter going to college, and I want to pay him more. And
What's C-level? Sorry.
C, like a chief,
CEO, C.
like
okay.
like a C.
Sorry,
like a chief.
I cook barbecue for a living.
Like
Okay.
a chief, like
Right,
he's
right.
an executive at the
Gotcha.
business. And I'm sure that he's stewing on that and wants more money, whatever. But it's like, little does he know, like I have thought about that just as much as he has.
Sure.
And I've put myself in that situation just as much as he has. And I think that's just like, I am a major, major people pleaser. I think about others' feelings more than my own, and I obsess over them. And now I also have a OCD, which coupled with depression is a dangerous.
That's a crazy mix.
Yeah, crazy mix. But it also affects my relationships. Like I really think about other people obsessively, and to think about how, I just want, if anyone is ever upset with me, it just really weighs on me. And so I would say that it probably stems from like that obsessive motive to please everyone. And so I'm constantly thinking about all of our employees and things.
I forget what they call that. So I think 60% of ADHD people have that. Oh, darn it. What's it called? It's the same thing with the people side. It is really hard to handle knowing that somebody else isn't happy with you or doesn't like you. And I don't know that I have that 100%, but I definitely have a little bit of it. And it can, if there's somebody, at least somebody I like or respect or whatever, if I think that they don't like me or aren't happy with me, it messes with me.
And even
pretty
for
bad.
me, like it affects my ability to take call. Like a good CEO cannot.
Right.
be
Can't
like
bury your
that.
head in the sand.
And so like for me it certainly does. Like I can't, even if I've never met the person, even if there's some sales guy that like got his hopes up and I'm going to have to tell him that we're not going to go with them or something.
That's got to be hard.
That paralyzes me. Like I can't get out of bed, and it's some guy I'm never going to meet.
Sure.
I've never seen his face, but I can't pick up that call or I can't answer that email, and I have to ask, like I literally have people on my team like, "Hey man, check this text and read it to me." Or, "Hey man, I can't even read this email. Can you go on my computer, log into my computer and check that email from this person and read it?"
Right.
Because I can't even, my brain cannot do it.
Which comes back to why that negative experience when you put yourself out there as the owner.
Yeah.
And he kind of reacted
because
negatively.
It really affects me.
You know what I mean?
The fear of rejection,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
feeling.
Really,
You
having
probably
it
don't like to
happen.
read your reviews either.
Oh.
See, I can't. I won't
Yeah.
read Yelp. I
Yeah,
won't read Google. Nothing.
Like
I won't.
a negative review, or like that's why I had to, like our office is open, everyone works together except me.
Right.
Because if I overhear someone in customer service talking about some guy that's upset,
Right.
like they can kind of brush it off. For me, like it will literally ruin my whole week.
Right.
So how do you have social media? Because man, there's bad stuff on there.
Yeah, I mean, so my role in social media is I post the photo and I write the caption, I post the photo, and then I don't touch it again.
That's
Okay.
like Rogan. That Rogan has done. He's done with. He talks about it all the time. Done with reading comments. Doesn't
can't
respond.
anymore.
He just posts his
Yeah.
stuff. So
And that's
this-
why my phone's been broken. Like this is like
It's a good thing.
broken. And that's why, it's been
Just
weeks.
leave it broken.
And I've kind of left it because it's like, well, I can't read text, I can't read comments, I can't read DMs, and it's like, whatever.
We're
Yeah.
too
I
don't
connected.
need it. Yeah.
Depression nowadays has to be so much harder to deal with, and it's probably the big reason that there's a lot more of it now, is the social media, and it's just the wild west on there.
Yeah.
Like being a kid now
Oh,
would
horrible,
suck.
man. Yeah.
It'd be so bad.
But
Horrible.
so a thought that popped into my head, and this might get a little deep. Okay,
Bring it, dude.
but I'm a big believer in our trials being for our benefit, right? And I'm sure it's hard to see the good side of this, but I'm going to share something that just kind of popped into my head. But when you have somebody that is your spiritual person,
Yeah.
right? Good dad, good husband. You probably wouldn't say that, but I'm going
I
to say it
would.
for you because
I'm
I can
actually
tell there's a
pretty
very
proud of-
sweet person
I'm
in
proud
there.
of my
That's awesome.
husbandry and my parenting, actually.
Husbandry. I'm going to start
I don't
referring to
know.
that like that. I like that. But I think that it's important if we'll bring God into this, right? I think you see so many people in your position, like Kanye is a perfect example, right? I guess I did kind of just relate you to Kanye, and I'm
Dude,
sorry
I'll
for
take
that.
it.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing.
I'll take, dude, like,
but here's this,
07
like,
Kanye. Yes. Please.
here's this super eccentric, not relatable. I mean, he's probably got a head the size of, I just think of the "So I Married an Axe Murderer" line, like orange, or what did he call him? Looks like an orange on a toothpick. Anyway, but I want to word this the right way. Is it a blessing in the sense that it keeps you aware, keeps you humble, and keeps you helping people instead of just turning into this egocentric? Like, in a way, is it maybe balancing the success and maybe not allowing it to go into your head and go into this weird space? I don't know. It's just an observation that it could just be to help other people, but you're so humble for what you've accomplished. And I think that is such a breath of fresh air. And could that be helping with that in a sense? Is there any positive spin on it, I guess, is what I'm trying to... That's what I try to look for anyway.
That right now, it's like out of balance.
Probably a hard time
like,
right now.
Sure.
I think to a certain degree, it could certainly help. I think right now I'm like way on the other extreme.
Of course.
But I think, I mean, like on my mission, like it made me, I think, a great missionary to be able to, empathize with this war-torn,
right,
poor country where like a smile and a hug is like all you need, and I think there's definitely elements of that. Like I remember on my way to the hospital, someone honked at me.
See, it was probably me.
No, it wasn't you.
I'm just kidding.
And I was in good spirits, and I was like, oh man, if that person only knew.
Right.
But like, man, that's every day. Like, you never know if a person's on the way to go say goodbye to their spouse that's dying in a hospital, or you don't know if they're going to a funeral, or like, you just never know. And so I think life is so heavy. Like, as I've gotten older, I've realized, like, man, our probationary state on this earthly life is really hard and horrible most of the time. And all we just need to do is just love and be nice.
Right.
And that's it, man.
Just
like,
be nice.
That's it.
Right.
I don't care if you're Mormon. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, I don't care if I have siblings that are active or inactive in the like.
Sure.
It's just like, if we just be nice, dude, that's it for me. And so I try and hopefully, employees, whether I'm, having a good day or a bad day, or if I'm a horrible CEO or a great CEO, whatever I'm doing, the most important goal for me is just to be kind. And if Taft succeeds, great. If Taft fails, great. I don't care. If I'm kind, that's what a successful life looks like for me.
That's awesome.
Oh man, what great! I mean, that's such great advice. And I think nowadays being kind goes so far.
Oh, dude,
so much farther than it used to. I think it surprises
it's more
people.
important now than it ever has been before, because of everything that's happening. So, just to end, I just want to turn a little bit, but I want to know, what are you excited about right now? I mean, I know you're in a struggle, but like personally in the business, like, is there something coming up that like you're excited about, whether it's a partnership or release, like what is it that kind of gets you excited right now?
When does this episode come out? Like, when will it be public? I'm trying to figure.
Whenever you want. Monday is when it comes out.
Oh, Monday?
Or you can tell us, we can edit this part out.
We'll get some of this stuff off there. That's the best part of this.
Yeah,
We've
you
gotten
can
a lot
trim
of
it down to the
off-the-air
good
stuff.
I was just going to ask, are you excited to maybe take a little break?
Yeah, I would say, so currently I'm hiring a president.
Right.
Okay.
Who will allow me to breathe and create some space between me and the business a little bit, which is
awesome.
really
And will
needed.
you be able to do that?
I will.
That's awesome.
A year ago, I wouldn't.
Right.
But now, like, we are in such an emergency, urgent care type scenario mentally that, like, I have to. It's not like a...
And maybe in a weird way, that's the blessing, right?
Yeah,
maybe
totally.
Maybe that wall, at least in my life, that I have to have a wall. Like, my next one is like getting my weight off, because it I don't mean to get too sad on this either, but it sucks. And, it's really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
But every, like, good thing that I've accomplished in my life or overcome in my life came when I hit, like, the wall. And...
Because you don't have any other choice. It's what you talked about.
Well,
I had to figure these
it's not
things
like-
out.
But that's a blessing, right? Like, in a sense,
Looking
in a
back
weird
on it,
way.
Looking back on it.
Like, because I think what's really special about you is you're noticing these things in the moment and you're sharing them in the moment. See, all the things that people tell me I help them with are from my past, right? Things I've overcome. And so I think to be aware, that's what I try to do now is like, when I'm in a sucky situation, I'm like, okay, what's the silver lining? What's God trying to tell me here? Is this to help someone else? Is this to help me? Is this to help my family? And I mean, maybe that wall is the silver lining in a sense to help you, because it's a blessing to be in a position to do that, right?
For sure.
And then to feel like, hey, I would rather do this. I couldn't do it a year ago. I can do it now. I mean.
So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited about that. Mostly I'm excited for, I'm really excited just to be with my kids and my wife more. My oldest is starting kindergarten in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I can spend my kids and my wife are like, they're like a dream,
right.
Like a dream come true. And, typically in life when our kids want us to be with them, we're like too busy. And then when we want to be with our kids, they're like teenagers and don't want to be with us anymore. So I'm trying to take advantage of this time and just be, my life has afforded me some flexibility. And so I'm trying to just like take advantage of that. We bought that new home and we're turning it into, our dream home just for our family. Right. So it's a new home, but it's really a lifestyle change that we're building the home around. And so I'm excited about trying to get ahead of the situation a little bit, hire the right people, and try and get back to a healthy balance in my life rather than letting the business dominate everything.
Yeah. Well,
have you grown to, I know you do have to leave, but have you grown to appreciate the family, like being home more as the business has grown?
Oh, dude, all I want to do is be home.
See,
yes.
We were talking about that last week. Like, I used to be like to go home at 8:00 here at 4 a.m.
Uh-huh.
But now, like, we bought a house in Highland because I wanted to be farther away.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because for every little thing, I didn't want to have to come back. But now I'm home at like 4. Like, I really love being home. And I don't know if it's because I am social. I'm pretty extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found with the restaurant that I like my quiet time at home.
I just want to be home all the time. I want to be like at home. Like, yeah, man, I say no to like every opportunity I have because all I want to do is like just be home.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we talked about it. Like, I'm going to use my same quote, show me your budget. I'll show you what's important to you. The fact that you're home shows what's important to you.
Sounds like your biggest spending is in fixing the house up. So that's good.
Well, yeah, for sure.
See? That's good.
Actual budget.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well,
very cool.
Kory, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been great.
So if people want to check out Taft, where's the best place to find you?
Instagram is just Taft, T-A-F-T.
Okay.
Taft. You could also go to the website, taftclothing.com. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Hope a lot of people listen to this.
So do I. I'll blast
really,
it out to like my
this is amazing.
500 followers.
I mean,
just a sneak peek. We're gonna do a Taft shoe giveaway. We're gonna buy a pair and give it away.
Oh,
we are.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm gonna give away a pair to me today. I'm gonna buy some now that there's 15.
We're gonna find some 15. No, but we're gonna find it. So everyone, follow Taft. Thanks for listening. Check us out.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Really
thanks for
means a lot.
having me, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.